I met Emily about 5 years ago. She was the kind of woman who always knew how to turn on the charm, and I was pretty smitten from the start. We got married after 2 years of dating, and for a while I thought we had a solid life together, good jobs, a nice house, occasional trips. But honestly, something started feeling off about a year ago, especially after our last vacation. She was acting weird, secretive even, but I kept brushing it off. Maybe I was just paranoid or overthinking things. Our last trip was supposed to be relaxing, a getaway to the mountains, just us. But from the beginning, Emily was overly aggressive about everything. She constantly checked her phone, giggled at unknown texts, and whenever I'd ask about her day, she'd brush it off with some bitchy remark like, "Oh, stop being so paranoid, Jeff. Nothing's going on." Still, I noticed her phone was always locked and sometimes she'd hide it when I came near. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the nagging feeling grew stronger. One evening, I was in the bedroom, trying to pack for another work trip, and I saw her phone sitting on the nightstand. She was out at the store, so I thought. I glanced over and saw a message pop up. It was from some guy named Ryan, and the message said, "Can't wait to see you tonight. You're so fucking hot. I've been thinking about your body all day." I froze. My heart started pounding. It was right there on her screen. I couldn't believe it. She was cheating on me, and this was just one of many. What made it worse was that this wasn't some accidental slip-up. No, these messages were frequent, and they had a tone that suggested they'd been going on for weeks, maybe longer. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I'd always trusted her, always believed we were solid. And here she was, sneaking around, lying to my face, pretending to be pregnant to cover her tracks. I remember that morning she'd told me she was pregnant. Her eyes glistened with fake tears, and she kept saying how she wanted to keep the baby and how it was a miracle. Meanwhile, I found out she'd been texting Ryan behind my back the entire time. I could process it. It was like my entire world crumbled in that moment. After I saw those messages, I didn't sleep that night. My mind kept racing, trying to piece everything together. I felt like I'd been hit with a sledgehammer. How could she lie so effortlessly? How long had this been going on? The little things suddenly made sense, her late nights, the way she'd dodge my questions, her secretive phone habits. It was all right there in front of me. The next morning, I decided I couldn't let it slide. I confronted her before she could leave for work. I sat her down, my hands trembling, and showed her the messages I found. She looked at me with that same bitchy smirk she always wore when she thought she was better than everyone else. She rolled her eyes and said, "Jeff, you're overreacting as usual. It's not what you think. That's just some guy from work. We're just friends and it means nothing." She had the nerve to deny it outright, even though I had the proof right there. Her voice was overly sarcastic, dismissive, like she thought I was an idiot. I asked her for her phone, hopping to find some explanation, some reason for all this. She refused. "No way, Jeff. You're being paranoid again. Just trust me," she snapped. Trust. After all those lies, I felt like I was losing my mind. How could someone I loved and trusted so much be capable of this? The rage boiled inside me. I wanted to scream, to shake her, to make her see how much she was hurting me. But I held back. I knew this was just the beginning of what would be a long, painful process. That moment, I realized I was dealing with a different person, someone manipulative, bitchy, and utterly selfish. She kept insisting she was pregnant, crying fake tears, clutching her stomach like she was carrying my child. I looked at her and thought, this woman doesn't even care about me anymore. She's just playing her own sick game. The betrayal cut so deep I couldn't breathe properly. I wanted to leave, to walk out and never look back, but I also knew I had to figure out what I was going to do next. I felt a strange mix of heartbreak, anger, and a strange sense of clarity. I needed to plan my next move carefully, but I knew one thing for sure: I wasn't going to let her get away with this without consequences. In the days that followed, everything felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I kept replaying that moment of confrontation, trying to find some clarity, some way to understand how she could be so cold and manipulative. Emily, that's what she called herself: bitchy, selfish, and a master of lies. She kept up her act, crying fake tears, insisting she was pregnant and that Ryan was just a friend, someone she met at work after hours. She told me I was paranoid, that I was imagining things, that she loved me and only me. All the while I knew better. I had seen the texts, the explicit messages, the flirtatious tone, the way she responded to him like he was her only priority. I started digging deeper, trying to find evidence. I installed a spy app on her phone, just enough to catch her in another lie. Sure enough, the day after our argument, she was still texting Ryan. They had plans to meet again, and her tone was even more suggestive than before. I felt sick. The woman I married, the woman I thought was my partner, was out there scheming behind my back, lying about what she was doing and convincing herself she was right. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. But here's the thing, I wasn't going to let her keep running this game. I took a step back and thought about revenge. Not some petty revenge. I wanted her to understand exactly what she lost, what she was risking. I started planning. I knew I couldn't just walk away without making her feel the weight of her actions. I wanted her to realize she'd crossed a line, and I wanted her to regret every lie, every moment of betrayal. I wasn't just angry, I was hurt, but I also understood that if I didn't do something about it, I'd always be the fool in this story. So I began to set my plan in motion. I made sure to gather all the evidence I needed, and I started thinking about how to confront her again, but this time with a clear purpose. I wanted her to see that I wasn't the naive husband she thought I was. I wanted her to feel how it was to be played, to be betrayed. That's when I realized I wasn't just fighting for my marriage anymore. I was fighting to regain my dignity, to show her that a woman like her couldn't keep lying and cheating without paying the price. This was going to be her wake-up call, whether she liked it or not. The next step was to catch her in the act, or at least make sure she knew I had the evidence. I spent a couple of nights laying low, watching her every move and waiting for the right moment to strike. I knew she was planning to meet Ryan again at some point, probably that same week. I had my phone ready, and I kept my ears open for any new lies or excuses. Every time she left the house, I wondered if she was going to see him, or if she was just going out to make it look like she was innocent. It was sickening how good she was at hiding her tracks. On the night she told me she was going to a friend's dinner, I followed her from a distance. She called Ryan, confirmed their plans, and I saw her slip into her car with an almost eager look. I stayed in my car, heart pounding, waiting until she was out of sight. Then I found a nearby parking lot to park and wait. Sure enough, after about 15 minutes, she pulled into a secluded spot at the edge of town, and I watched her get out, meet Ryan in the shadows, and start making out with him. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. That bitch was out there cheating on me with my best friend and lying to my face about being pregnant. I snapped some pictures. I didn't want to make a scene right then, I just wanted proof. When she finally left, I followed her home, hiding in the shadows like some kind of vigilante. When she pulled into the driveway, I waited until she was inside. Then I went back to my house and looked at those photos again. I felt the blood drain from my face. That moment, I knew I had to confront her again, but this time, I'd be prepared. I had everything I needed to blow her cover wide open. But I also knew that the confrontation wouldn't be easy. Emily was a bitchy woman who loved to twist everything around, so I had to be smart. I started drafting what I was going to say, how I was going to lay everything out. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me again. I wanted her to see that I wasn't just some fool who got played. I was the one holding all the cards now. I also knew I couldn't keep pretending I was okay with her lies, her fake pregnancy, her sneaking around with my best friend. That was the end of the line. I was ready to give her a taste of her own medicine, but I also knew that would change everything forever. And honestly, I didn't care about saving the marriage anymore. Not after this. I just wanted her to suffer, to understand that she'd crossed a line she couldn't come back from. The night I decided to confront her, I was a mess. My mind was racing with all the things I wanted to say, all the questions I needed answers to. But at the same time, I knew I had to stay calm, to outsmart her, to make sure she couldn't spin her usual lies. I waited until she was supposed to be asleep. Then I quietly went into the bedroom and turned on the recorder I'd hidden in my pocket. I wanted to catch her in her own words, to document her reaction, just in case I needed it later. When she saw me sitting there, staring at her with that cold, hard look, she rolled her eyes and started with her usual bitchy attitude. "What do you want, Jeff? You're wasting your time. I've got nothing to hide," she sneered, but I could see the nervousness in her eyes. I pulled out the photos, the videos, the evidence I'd gathered and laid them on the bed between us. Her face instantly turned pale and the fake bravado she'd been trying to keep up crumbled. "You think you're so clever, don't you?" she spat. "You're just a jealous, insecure guy who can't handle a little fun. Ryan's just a friend and you're blowing this out of proportion." She was lying again, trying to play the victim, but I wasn't buying it. I told her I knew about her and Ryan, how I followed her, how I saw her kissing him in the shadows, how I had proof of everything. Her bitchy smirk flickered and she started to get defensive, but I cut her off. This was the moment of truth. I looked her straight in the eye and told her exactly what I wanted her to hear. She had betrayed me, lied about the pregnancy, and cheated with my best friend. I told her I was done. I wasn't going to be her fool anymore. I said she could keep playing her games, but I was walking away, and I was going to make sure everyone knew what kind of woman she really was. Her reaction was classic Emily. She started crying fake tears, clutching her stomach, claiming she was so sorry, that she'd made a mistake, that she loved me and only me. But I saw through it. I saw the bitch behind the tears, the manipulative woman who thought she could get away with anything. I told her I'd be filing for divorce, that she could keep her lies, her fake pregnancy, her little affair. And when I left that night, I knew I was done. There was no turning back after this. I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness, knowing I'd finally taken control of the situation, but also knowing everything I believed in had shattered. This whole experience has changed me. I've learned that some people are just selfish, manipulative, and willing to destroy what you have for their own twisted reasons. I don't know what's next for me, but I do know I won't be fooled again. Moving forward, I've got to rebuild myself, learn to trust again, if I even want to. But one thing, for sure, Emily's betrayal has left a scar that will take a long time to heal. Since that night, everything has changed. I filed for divorce, and honestly, I don't see myself ever trusting anyone the same way again. The betrayal cut so deep that I sometimes wonder how I ever let myself believe she was genuinely the woman I married. Emily tried to come back, of course. She begged, cried, and even threw a few tantrums, insisting she was sorry and that she'd change. But I saw through it. Her tears were fake, just another manipulation. I realized she's always been this way, just waiting for her next opportunity to lie, cheat, and play her victim. Living with the aftermath has been brutal. I feel angry at myself for ever trusting her, but I also feel relieved that I finally saw her true face. It's made me realize how important it is to pay attention to the small signs, to trust your instincts, and not to ignore the way someone treats you when they think they're getting away with something. I've learned that some people are just toxic, and no matter how much you love them, you can't fix their brokenness. You have to protect yourself first. I don't regret exposing her, even if it's cost me everything I thought I knew about love and loyalty. At least now, I can finally start to heal. I don't wish her ill, I just want to move on and find someone who isn't so damn selfish. I've realized that sometimes the worst betrayal comes from the people you trust the most, and that's a lesson you can't learn any other way. To anyone out there going through something similar, trust your gut. Don't ignore the red flags. And if you find yourself in a situation where someone's lying to your face, don't let them keep convincing you everything's fine. Because at the end of the day, the truth will come out, and it's better to face it head-on than to keep pretending everything's okay. I learned that the hard way, but I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. And someday, I'll find happiness again, free from the lies and the pain.